Walter?
Upstairs!
Are you all right?
In the floor behind the chair.
This is America.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Fix It Radio.
And it is that time. Fix It Radio, KLZ 560, myself, and we got Paul, the water guy from Water Pros, with us this morning. We're going to talk about water quality and all sorts of things, and we'll probably have to have Paul back because there's always way more to talk about than we'll get covered in an hour. Even talking to him before we came on air today, there's a lot to learn, so we'll get through some of that today. Larry Unger, of course, answering phones. Charlie Grimes, our engineer. If you have a question, please give us a call, 303-477-5600. Don't forget the text line, 307-200-8222. So as we go through different things, if you've got a question, by all means, call in. We have Paul throughout the entire hour. If you're listening on Monday to the replay show from 2 to 3, thank you, by the way. No, you cannot call in during that show, but you can text us, and I can always get answers from Paul if you need something on Monday as well. But good morning, Paul.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, and after talking to you for a little bit this morning, I'm not sure how well I am. Oh, my word. Lots going on.
There's a lot going on, and it's very aggravating, to be honest with you, if you think about it.
Yeah, we're going to have Paul on. For those of you listening, we've got stuff to talk about, even on the political sides of things that Paul can kind of instruct all of us on. We'll do that during a weekday show at some point here because there's a lot going on in the water world and the treatment of and just different factions of it and so on. But water quality, Paul, is a big deal, and I don't know that it's a topic most people really understand. I think some people think they understand it, but in the end, they probably don't.
Well, I think everybody has a false sense of security about the quality of the water.
Yeah.
You know, first thing is if you're, live in town and you get a glass of water, you're trusting that, right? And you don't realize that every glass of water, if you don't have a filtration system, is loaded with disinfection byproducts, which are cancer-causing agents because they use chlorine to, disinfect it.
Right.
So you have trihalomethanes, haloacetic acids, and, that's in our water, step one. Then we have the forever chemical issue. We have the microplastic issue. And we're learning pharmaceuticals are also made with forever chemicals. So there's a lot going on in our drinking water.
And what I'm guessing because you tell me, but the further I've always said this way, and I don't think I'm too wrong here. But the further downstream you get, the more of that it becomes a problem because the wastewater plants. Most people again don't think about this, but a wastewater plant, they take and basically quote unquote cleanse the water the best they can. They treat the water. I guess what I'm trying to say. They take all of the hard
the solid. They take the solids
that's
out.
That's what I'm trying to say. They take the solids out and things like that. And at the end of the day, they treat the water, but it goes right back into a stream. Correct when it's all said and done.
Yeah,
right?
it's all reusable water.
That's right.
Yeah, we're all no matter what, it's all reusable water. So what a waste treatment plant can do is take the solids out of the water. Okay. And then everything is injected back into the body water that they took it from. So how many people use the Chatfield Lake? How many people use, that river? I'm drawing a blank.
Well, any of them.
Yeah, and they take water.
The Platte
River,
there's
right,
a bunch
thank
of
you.
them, yeah.
So I know for a fact that Denver upstream takes water out, Aurora downstream takes it. So the wastewater has to go someplace. So it goes right back into the water reservoirs or rivers and lakes that they take it from. So it's reusable. Castle Rock right now is at 35% reusable water. With this drought, we're running out of water. We'll be very candid with you. Aquifers, well water quality. We're getting a lot of phone calls for the well water quality's changed. Issues are happening that didn't happen before. So, and then think about, industrial, our revolution back in the 1800s, 1900s. So water, really started being a deliverable source for municipality in the early 1900s. So the hydrological cycle throughout the earth, right? It's the same water that we use from the beginning of time.
Yeah, I've said that I don't know how many times, Paul. I'm glad somebody like you actually agrees with me and is verifying that because I've said for years that we have the exact amount of water that God created this earth with from day one.
Exactly.
Because there's no water in space. It doesn't go anywhere.
We don't have an asteroid that comes down.
Whatever we had to start with is what we still have today. Yes, it changes forms. I get that. It goes from ice to, and then of course it can turn to steam, and then it can evaporate and turn back into rain and come. But at the end of the day,
it's the same.
The same amount is still here.
So that's why I say it's all reusable anyway.
That's true.
It's all reusable anyway. And so, other countries don't have, EPA mandates manufacturing waste. Other companies don't pay attention to that, so you don't know what they're dumping into it. So if the whole world is contaminated with microplastics, that's a fact.
Okay.
The whole world is contaminated with forever chemicals. And one step further, when you take that human waste in the municipality, they get rid of it. Well, that human waste is loaded with contamination. It's loaded with forever chemicals.
True.
They're giving that to farmers, and that's used to grow
food
crops
and everything else.
That's right. So, that's
a vicious cycle.
It is. So then anything that the human body takes out, right, and we get rid of, it ends up in a water supply.
That's true. Yeah, and those are things that, again, I don't think most people really think. That's why I've been wanting to have you on for a while, because there's a lot here to talk about. Again, we'll have Paul back in the future, but bottom line, you can, and this is what Paul's here for, you can do some things in your own home, and it doesn't matter whether you're on municipal water, whether you've got a well. Paul, you've got fixes for everybody, and walk us through that. So if somebody out there is thinking, okay, yep, I understand what you guys are saying, I've been thinking about this for a long time. Maybe we'll talk about this as well, maybe they drink bottled water. We'll talk about some of that also, because in some cases it's not a whole lot different when it's all said and done.
Exactly.
But let's say they want to add a system. What's this? What's the process? If somebody, they pick up the phone, they call you to begin with, how does all this work?
So we'll come out to their house and we'll do a free consultation. We'll do a water test, the basics, the hardness, total chlorine content. If you live in town, well water, we do a little more in depth. We do the hardness, iron, total dissolved solids, because those are important things to check. When you live in town, we have what we call the matrix system. We design that to take care of the forever chemicals. We design that to take care of the total chlorine and remove the hardness. So that's, stage one. We recommend people consider reverse osmosis for the drinking water to get rid of the pharmaceuticals.
Okay, and you know what? That's a name I think a lot of people are familiar with, but how does it actually work? I'm not sure most people really, they know the term, but do they really understand how it works? I don't think most do.
That's a great question. So what reverse osmosis is that it uses a submicron filter.
Okay.
Remember, think of a roll of camera film.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what an RO is. It's a roll of film. It's a thin film membrane that's nanofiltration, small enough to stop the pharmaceuticals, grab them, small enough to grab the microplastics. And then that gives you that 99.99% pure drinking water.
Okay.
They need to be supported by a water softener because it's, microscopic filtration, so hard water will destroy that filtration.
Okay.
So that's why the two go hand in hand.
Even if you've already got soft water.
Right.
It's not soft enough, is what you're saying.
Right. So, see, here's the thing. Great question. Anything that's from 0 to 1 is soft water, and RO can function. Once you get over that, then hard water, and you see the calcium deposits build up on your faucet. Right? Have you ever go to a friend's house and seen the refrigerator receptacle with the ice maker and the water spout, and you see it all gummy with build up? That's hard water.
Right.
So that's a submicron carbon filter that hardness still penetrates through.
Okay.
So you can see the damage. That, to me, is proof that there's no such thing as salt-free water softeners because carbon can't stop it. So if you see that buildup, that's what it could happen on the reverse osmosis membrane, the microscopic filter part. So what water softening does is allow the membrane to operate in soft water. And if that's the case, then it can last 2 years before you have to change it. But then you're allowing every glass of water to be filtered at its maximum capacity. But see, an RO system is a 1-to-1 ratio where it takes 1 gallon of water to make 1 gallon of drinking water. So you're going to have 1 gallon of waste for 1 gallon of product water. Why is that? Because water's not 100% water anymore. So what's going down the drain is all the contaminants that you remove.
I see.
Now, technology is allowed where we have tankless ROs. Now, tankless ROs still have wastewater, but they have a pump that pushes the water through the membranes for higher recovery and productivity. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's on demand. And so, we have a system, a tankless reverse osmosis, that gives you up to 600 gallons of drinking water a day. With the water softening, if I remove the hardness, the total chlorine, and the forever chemicals out of the water for the whole house, then you're allowing that reverse osmosis to focus on the other elements that we really don't want. Pharmaceuticals nowadays are made with forever chemicals. Prozac is made with a forever chemical.
Okay.
You have to think antibiotics in the water supply. We have every glass of water, if you don't have a filtration system, you could be drinking somebody else's pharmaceutical cocktail. Because once the body drinks that, it gets rid of it. But what happens? The body, first thing it wants to do is get rid of that medicine because it treats it as a foreign substance. That's why You take a antibiotic, for example, they want you to go back to the doctor and check your kidney function, make sure your kidneys are okay based on the kind of antibiotic you're taking. So that the body's expelling that. So if you mix that with a forever chemical cocktail and that stays in the body longer, the theory is that the body can't get rid of it, so you're getting that medication. But when you do expel it, you're metabolizing that pharmaceutical. And so pharmaceuticals don't disappear like everybody thought. Mm-hmm. People used to think, well, the pharmaceutical contamination is so small, what's the big deal? Well, look what happened with the forever chemical. The forever chemical, they started saying, EPA in 2024 said, if you have 1 part per billion in your municipal water supply, it's contaminated. You know what 1 part per billion is? That's 1 drop in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Mm. That's 1 part per billion. Then 6 months later, they said, no, you have to. If you have 4 part per trillion, that's unacceptable. How small is that?
That's really small.
Right. So now the EPA says 0 is acceptable. So my point is, pharmaceuticals put that in the same category. How do they know? And the reason why I say this is if the EPA has a laundry list of unregulated contaminants, John, that unregulated contaminant means they're there, but your municipality doesn't have to test for it or report it. Okay. There's the scam. If they have the EPA in April issued their contaminant candidate list, same thing, contaminants in the water supply, they're acknowledging that they're there, but your municipality doesn't report it. So you as a consumer are paying for something, but you really don't know what's in it.
Okay, so again, I think the misconception or the thought is, well, that water treatment plant where I'm getting my water from, the city water or the the municipality, whoever's providing it, and I've talked about that on my daily show. That's a patchwork, as you know. I mean, right. You can have a little carve out in a particular area where there's a water treatment facility and or a water supplier in that particular area that's different from the municipality and so on. In other words, and I don't know this answer, how many different water treatment, not me, because not everything's municipal. Some are private, run water delivery systems. How many of those across this Front Range are there?
I would say, I'm going to educate a guess, there's got to be over 200 of them.
Okay.
But here's the problem.
I was going to say 100, so you're probably right.
Well, here's the problem. Every new subdivision that pops up then now has their own water district.
Right.
Okay, so that's
they form a metro district. They put in the water stuff and,
that's right. and
sewer and all that.
And non-elected officials hired by somebody. Okay. Right. So the problem is you got to think about the old infrastructure. There's old infrastructure out there, these old, that haven't, been upgraded. Right. Then you have the new stuff, but it's the same water. So it's all reusable water. Do you realize the aquifers that everybody draws from? I did research on this. They call it ancient aquifers, and the way that Mother Nature constructed them, rainwater doesn't fill them up. They don't get replenished. Now, what can happen is a municipality can inject their wastewater into that. So
I actually had a daytime guest here not long ago, Paul, that said that. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize we were doing that, but they're basically pumping that wastewater right back down into the aquifer.
Exactly correct. So then all that contamination that's removed now is concentrated, and so folks that think they're in well water, that they're immune to municipal water issues, you're not. In some cases, you could be even worse. And why? Because it's not tested. How many people have a well water? You're on your own. The EPA states that if you're well water, you're on your own. Nobody monitors it. Nobody tests it.
Gotcha.
So, and the only thing you really should think about is, every couple of years spend $500, take it to, Colorado Analytical and have an MDAT test done. You know what happened with the state lab? The state of Colorado lab got shut down by the EPA because they falsify test results.
Geez. Oh, yeah, I did see that. I remember that now. Yeah. Yes.
So you can't use the state lab. And why falsify results? It's kind of it blows my mind because you got the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment that's sticking their nose in everything now, right? So they should work hand in hand with the state. And if you can't trust your own state lab, then what's going on?
Who are you testing? Yeah, who are you trusting it?
Right. So, Colorado Analytical is stepping up. They're
so it's a
private company, but for profit,
okay.
Right? And then they also work in conjunction with Hazen Laboratory. These are local labs, and you can test your water. You need to know what your PFAS levels are. I mean, everybody right now has forever chemicals in their body. Okay, Now, then 2 months ago, Robert Kennedy came out and said that his Health and Human Services are going to spend $148 million to study the effects of microplastics. Well, we already know microplastics have penetrated the brain, right? There's a story, major heart attack victims that have microplastics in their arteries. So and this all can come from, water, food as well, but water. So, you have to think about what you're drinking. You have a false sense of security. If you have a glass of water and you're assuming it's safe, it's not. You can do your own research. Everything I talk about, you find it on the web.
Okay.
There's YouTube videos. Check out DuPont, all right, and 3M. They continue to poison the world. They just got done settling another hundreds of millions of dollars lawsuits because they're dumping their forever chemicals, which they're supposed to stop manufacturing, and they're not. How can they keep on staying in business? And then the forever chemical, it was designed in the 40s when they were doing the radioactive nuclear bomb. It was discovered by mistake. It's manufactured by such a long chain of atoms and other material on the periodical chart that's why they give it the forever chemical name. So then they try to make something smaller called the Gen X chemical, but it's still forever. It doesn't break apart. So anything that's used in water-resistant material is in the wastewater is what's contaminating. And so now they call it bioaccumulate.
Okay. I did not know that. Wow. Lots to learn. If you guys have questions, again, give us a call, 303-477-5600. You can text us as well, 307-200-8222. We'll get questions answered. Paul will be here till 10 o'clock this morning, and we for sure will have Paul back. Now, really quick, Paul, before we go to break, you've also got a special right now that we've been running this month on some of the things we're talking about. Talk about that real quick before we go to break.
So we have a 3/4 of a cubic foot water softener with a tankless RO, $3,600.
Okay. 3,600.
3,600.
Okay, so how much off of that? I mean, how much? What would that be a regular price?
So what we're looking at regular price is probably about $4,800.
Okay, so that's a $1,200 discount.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to do that until probably September.
Okay. All right. So there's your deal. Give Paul a call. Paul, what's your phone number? How do folks get hold of you?
303-862-5554.
And if you missed that, just go to our website, Fix It Radio, or any of my websites, by the way. You'll find Paul there as well. We'll come right back. Again, lines are open. Give us a call if you have a question, 303-477-5600. We come back, we're going to talk about bottled water and I think some of the false sense of security that's around some of that as well. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Fix It Radio, KLZ 560.
Even in the age of AI, looking for the right insurance can be a huge hassle. Paul Leuenberger has you covered without the hassle. He works with the best in the business. Hartford, Travelers, Safeco, Liberty Mutual, Nationwide, Allstate, AIG, Chubb, Pure, Berkey, Grundy, Haggerty, and more. He's local, independent, and licensed in Wyoming, Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, and Texas. And he's expanding into more states soon. Paul's mission is simple: to find the right coverage at the best value and to treat every client like family. So whether you're shopping for home, auto, or something more unique, don't shop online. Call Paul at 303-662-0789 today. That's 303-662-0789. Paul Leuenberger, Insurance Made Easy.
Are you tired of being told that's just part of getting older? Dr. Scott at Castle Rock Regenerative Healthcare believes something very different. He believes you should be living your best life, and that starts with being truly healthy. This isn't a one-size-fits-all clinic. Dr. Scott takes a big-picture approach to your health, looking at everything from hormones and inflammation to nutrition and overall wellness, so you can feel better, think clearer, and have the energy to actually enjoy your life again. They offer advanced regenerative therapies, IV treatments, and one of the most comprehensive blood panels you'll find anywhere. Over 100 biomarkers, giving you real answers, not guesswork. And here's the key: you don't have to settle. Whether it's low energy, brain fog, joint pain, or just not feeling like yourself, there are solutions. Dr. Scott's goal is simple: help you live longer, feel better, and stay active doing the things you love. Call today, 303-663-6990, or visit CastleRockRegenerativeHealth.com. That's Castle Rock Regenerative Healthcare, where the goal isn't just to get by, it's to help you live your best life.
Looking to buy or sell a classic car? Need a reliable valuation you can trust? Look no further than BP Appraisals, LLC. With over 20 years of experience in the appraisal industry, we provide fast, accurate, and professional appraisal services that you can count on. Did you know that an appraisal can also entail the forecasting of monetary earning power? An appraisal is a document with a valuation conclusion. It is not a pre-purchase inspection, a mechanical evaluation, or a recommendation to buy or sell your vehicle. It's the actual value at that moment in time, which many need for things like estate planning, insurance, or investing. At BP Appraisals, we value your property like it's our own. Make informed decisions with confidence. Don't settle for less. Choose the experts at BP Appraisals LLC, where precision meets professionalism. Visit us today at bpappraisalsllc.com and schedule your appraisals in just minutes. BP Appraisals LLC. We know what your property is worth. That's bpappraisalsllc.com or call 720-295-0108.
Are you tired of dealing with hard water, stains, or just poor water quality in your home? Do you worry about forever chemicals that have been found in nearly all municipal water supplies? These toxic chemicals, which can linger in the environment and the human body for extended periods, have been linked to various health risks. Municipal water also has chlorine and lead and can have other bacteria. These contaminants can also impact your health. A water filter from Water Pros can provide clean, safe drinking water right from your tap. At Water Pros, we believe everyone deserves clean, refreshing water right from the tap. Whether it's whole home water systems, reverse osmosis, or water softeners, Water Pros has you covered with customized, high-quality solutions tailored to your needs. Best of all, installation is quick, seamless, and done by our expert technicians. Plus, you'll love our affordable pricing and industry-leading warranties. So why wait? Join thousands of satisfied homeowners and experience the Water Pros difference today. Visit waterpros.net or call Paul the Waterman at 303-862-5554 for a free consultation. Water Pros. Quality water. Better life.
Okay, we are back. Exit Radio, KLZ 560. Again, Paul, Water Pros with us today. You just heard his ad a moment ago, and he is in studio with us. If you have a question on anything water-wise, some of you listening are in areas where you've got well water, or you might have city or municipal water. Some of you might be on a shared well. That's something else we can talk about, where there's different areas where you might be, you might have, half a dozen or more homes that are all on a shared well system. There's all sorts of different delivery systems out there. And by the way, in our entire listening audience, because we go all the way up to Nebraska, Wyoming, Kansas. You guys are listening down in the Panhandle, Dallas, areas like that. Some of you are listening online in other parts of the country, by the way, as well. And this is something that is universal. It's not just in our area, Paul. This is everywhere, right?
Yeah, this is a global problem.
Yeah, this isn't just here.
It is. It's a global problem. You have to think about this. When industrial, I was mentioning to you during the break,
right.
1,4-dioxin is an industrialized contaminant that's been in the water. It's cancer-causing. It's a toxin. The EPA knows about it, but they're not making anybody test for it or report it. So,
is that because it's not easily removable, or what?
Well, it's a forever issue. That's right. And the infrastructure, it's all about tax dollars.
That's true too.
Right?
Yes.
How much? So,
yes.
Can you imagine water treatment? They have to give you the water at a fast rate. So, can you imagine? The only way to do this right is that they pre-treat the water. Then they have to have all these water storage tanks, so then they can deliver you pre-treated water, because you can't design something to treat it on demand.
I see.
So it's really up to us. Here's an analogy. If we have medical insurance, it's still up to you to make sure you get the care you want.
That's true.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you're paying for your water. It's still up to you to make sure you get the water that you want.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Can't argue that at all. Okay. Larry asked a great question, by the way, during the break that we should mention to folks, because some folks out there are renting, Paul, for example. So do you have a system that would help in that, where they're going to go ahead and do this investment, but maybe they're only going to be in that particular home for a short time? Is that something you can do for them, where they can move that with them?
We can take the equipment with them, and also if you're renting an apartment or condo, do the tankless RO, because we can hook that up directly to your kitchen faucet, so you don't have to have a secondary faucet.
Okay.
So a lot of folks in apartment and condo living, they don't want you messing, with the fixtures. So we put the tankless RO. It comes right out of the cold water faucet. You don't have to worry about that, and then you got RO water.
Okay. Talk to us about bottled water, because again, I think that's another misconception. I was reading some stuff this past week that depending upon where you even get your bottled water from, what manufacturer, I guess I should say, what supplier, maybe that's a better way to say it, some of that isn't any better than what you're drinking out of your own faucet. Am I right?
Correct. So right now the EPA doesn't mandate any guidelines for filtration on bottled water. Okay. And then is
that why all of it tastes different?
Well, exactly.
Because it does. I mean, there's some bottled water where it's like, okay, yeah, that tastes pretty good. And there's other bottled water where it's like, yeah, I don't like the way that tastes.
Well, that's exactly right. But check this out. Water is inorganic. So minerals in water are inorganic. So there's no beneficial to an inorganic mineral to your body. Okay. So hard water can create gallstones, kidney stones. So they put manganese in the water for flavor. I mean, water shouldn't taste. Water's there for a flushing agent.
Right.
All right. The bottled water industry created it was the first that we heard about microplastics because of the bottled water industry, because of their manufacturing practices. See, they use Aquasana, Dasani, they use commercial-sized reverse osmosis units, right? But they don't pre-treat them. So they're letting the membranes basically be sacrificial. So hard water gets to the membranes, builds up on the RO membranes, and then plastics and contamination come, and they bounce off the hardness, get smaller, and that's how you get microplastics in bottled water. To the point that even the RO membranes themselves, they tested the fibers of microscopic fibers of reverse osmosis membranes. The Independent Bottled Water Association had a chance to step up and really, secure the industry and say we're going to improve standards, but no, they just, brushed it off, act like it was no big deal. So to this day, go to YouTube, folks, and type in microplastics in bottled water, and you'll see the scientists. There's videos up there that after they did the research, they said point blank, I'm not drinking bottled water.
Wow. I've said that for years. I've actually had arguments with folks, family members and so on in the past, whereby that what they think they're drinking out of bottled water is what is way better than what's coming out of the faucet. And I guarantee you, there are situations, Paul, where you're better off drinking what's coming out of the faucet.
Absolutely correct. Because there's no, if the bottled water industry was in the same guidelines of all the other food you buy at the store, there would be some sort of health label in it, right? And there's not.
True.
There's absolutely not.
What about all the companies that deliver water, the Deep Rocks and so on? What's their stuff? What's their game?
Well, it's the same. It's the same manufacturing practices. See, in order for you to do reverse osmosis for bottled water, you have to pre-treat it with a water softener. So that means that's an extra expense. And then the wastewater from a water softener in industrial size is going to be a lot more. So then that municipality, just like with car washes have to reuse their water, right? Okay.
I knew that.
So, all right. So the same thing in the manufacturing side. So they're going to skip it. They're not going to do that. See, here, it's something else regarding the bottled water industry. It first started in the 80s as a fad.
Right.
It
did.
I mean, it was like, a yuppie thing to do with the alligator shirt. I got my bottled water. And then the bottled water basically is almost on par for 12 ounces is almost on par for a gallon of gas.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Right? It is. You can have bottled water gives you a false sense of security. Then here's the other issue.
It's all a mental game they've played for years, right?
Right. And then now the plastic does not disintegrate. Plastic does not decay.
Correct.
So now all the plastic that's in our landfill is staying forever, and that's what's created the microplastic problem that's polluted the world.
What a vicious cycle.
It is. You take a fork and you set a fork out, right, in a farm by barbed wire and see what decays first, the barbed wire or the fork.
Ooh, good one. I never thought about that. Okay, so talk to us about whole house versus just doing it at the faucet. Oh, and really quick, before we do that, how well does a Borax water filter system work? I'm out of state. Also, you said a few weeks ago that you should not drink from a water bottle left in a car. Let's talk about that one for a moment, too. We'll go in reverse. You are correct, and that's very well known. It's becoming more and more known on the plastic end of things. So even if you've got a fancy water bottle, but it's plastic, and you leave that in the car gets hot, yeah, you should not drink that water. You should not drink that at all.
No, there's a chemical reaction.
That's right.
It's hazardous. What do they call those stainless steel cups? They call them a Stanley cup?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you need to go to.
Which is what I've got here.
Right, the Stanley cup. Stainless steel. Stainless steel does not deteriorate with reverse osmosis water.
Okay.
So is reverse osmosis. See, reverse osmosis water is acidic. And, your stomach acid is acidic. Right? So then when you drink RO water, you're matching your stomach acid.
Okay.
So a lot of these bottled water companies that want to add alkalinity to it, you're counteracting to what the stomach is. So the only thing you're going to do is drink indigestion, right? What happens if you have a stomach ache? Back in the day, right, you took, sodium bicarbonate,
right.
Baking soda.
Baking soda.
Okay. So the byproduct of a water softener is baking soda. So people think, well, I don't want to drink soft water because it's salt. Well, there's no salt because the chemical process, exchange process. The reverse osmosis gives you water at a 5 pH level, and what's that going to do? That's going to enhance the flavors of the food you're cooking with, the coffee and tea you drink, and then it's a flushing agent because your stomach absorbs it.
The normal water is what, 7.2, 7.4?
Right, and some of them are even higher, and high alkalinity water does nothing for you. There was a guy years ago that came to a home show I was at. He had pancreatic cancer. He read an article that said, high alkalinity water would save his life, and it's just not the case. So there's so much nonsense out there about water quality, and a lot of it's internet-driven to push an agenda. There's no such thing as salt-free water softeners. So I'm not familiar with that filter system that they mentioned, the Borox filter.
Boroux.
I'm not familiar with that, unfortunately.
And by the way, I know Paul well enough to know this. Even if you're out of state and you guys have a question, and you want to know, hey, who's a good person in my area, or what questions should I be asking when it comes to water quality and getting things handled and so on. Paul's the kind of guy where if you call him on the telephone, he'll help you. Even you guys that are out of state, you can call Paul, he'll help you.
And we had folks that lived in Colorado that moved out of state, and we've shipped them systems, so we can definitely do that too.
Okay, so you guys that are listening that are out of state and have questions on this or need anything along those lines, by all means, reach out to Paul and let's get that handled. Now, you can do different systems, which I know we just talked about a moment ago, but you can do a system whereby, because we have one here at the station that we put in, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I want to say now, Paul, something like that.
Yeah, reverse osmosis. It's a 3-stage. So when you live in
which
town...
is for just drinking.
Drinking, right. When you live in town, a 3-stage reverse osmosis system is really all you need for city water. Okay. It's going to absorb the total chlorine, it get rid of the forever chemicals, gets rid of the pharmaceuticals, helps with the microplastics. And, you get the water you drink is at, 99.99%, clean H2O.
Okay. I just got a great question from Dave Hart. He's our roofer. And just said, okay, we're talking about all these hot, leaving the water bottle in the car and so on. He's like, okay, what about all of the water bottles that you see being transported around in big trucks that go to the retailers? They're
totally
out there
agree.
They're in the middle of the summer.
Avoid it. Yeah, avoid it. Especially at convenience stores where they got it stacked outside and the sun's shining right on them. Don't buy it.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, if you're in a convenient, you see those at 7-Eleven, your gas station, they got a case of waters outside, stay away. Absolutely. Have you noticed that bottled water, the bottles itself have become wimpier?
Yes,
they bend.
They're way thinner.
Yeah, they're way thinner than they used to be.
Yes.
That's still, there's no difference there.
Okay, this person that has the Borox water filter, it's a black filter water system. Does that make sense?
So anything that's activated carbon, if it's an activated carbon filter, it's the most overused filter media in the market today. Activated carbon is a sponge. It absorbs organics. So if you have hard water will break it down. They don't last forever. One of the biggest things out there is there's companies, John, that say these filters will last 1 million gallons of water. That's irresponsible nonsense, because how do you know what quality water you're filtering?
Okay.
So if it's a carbon filter, recommend changing it at least every 6 months. They don't last as advertised.
Okay. And somebody else texted, what about all the supermarkets that have the
bottled water?
Same
thing. Stay away.
Same situation. Stay away from those.
Stay away from those. If the sun's shining on it, why buy it?
True.
Because what's happening? Think about this. If you ever, in that case, because the sun causes the plastic coating, the wrapper, right, to break down.
True.
I noticed something, and it really caught my attention. Plastic doesn't dissolve; it just gets smaller, smaller, and smaller. So then, if you have plastic outside, and it gets to where we can't see it, and then that's what happens. It's spread through the hydrological cycle. Everything is spread throughout the globe. That's why they call it global accumulate.
Okay.
So microplastics. Fox News first started the story. I remember on a Father's Day when they said that we have microplastics as the size of a credit card in the human brain. Okay. This past Father's Day, they did another. Now it's the size of a fork. It's in the arteries. It's in the male and female reproductive. God forbid, what I'm afraid is going to happen. Pretty soon, we're going to hear the first story of a fetus that was destroyed because of plastics.
Wow.
It can happen. It's in the body. They do studies on cadavers, right?
Okay.
So that's why they know it's in the placenta. It's in the male reproductive organs. It's all over your human body right now. If you have a stent, and stent's designed to break up plaque, well, what's going to happen with microplastics? It's going to accumulate in that stent. They're not going to break that up, and so it's just going to get stopped. And so we're going to have issues. It's going to get to the point. That's why I think the federal government, is starting to do a study on it, because we already know, but they're just not telling us. Yeah. And here's something else. The forever chemical issue has been around longer, since the 90s, but no one knew about it.
Okay. So in other words, this isn't new. It's just we're now discovering it and talking about it.
Correct.
Is what you're really trying to say.
Yes.
Please ask Paul if a big Berkey water filter, or can I use a big Berkey water filter until I can save up enough money to have a complete RO system put in? Does the big Berkey filter do a good enough job?
The Berkey filter, it does a good enough job as long as you maintain it, and as long as you take those filters and you got to scrub them. So calcium will build up and cover a slimy film on that Berkey filter. So you need to follow the recommended maintenance. If you live in Highlands Ranch, if you live in the metro area where you have hard water, then absolutely you got to scrub that filter. Basically, you got to sand it down, polish it, because if you don't, then what happens is the filter can't absorb the water because the calcium is that barrier.
Okay, makes sense.
So the Berkey filters, if you
could do that, but that's as a temporary solution,
right? But just make sure that you sand and scrub the filters down, because that's the maintenance that the Berkey, I'm not sure exactly how often, but before they should be replaced. But
that probably has a lot to do with the quality of water you're putting in the first place, right?
Absolutely correct. Activated carbon is really good at removing total chlorine content and forever chemicals. So think about that. Then if you have hard water that coats that, how long? I used to think RO filters could last, supported by a water softener, could last you 5 years. But with all this contamination, every 2. Because when I first started, introducing to this radio station 4 years ago, I had no idea, that we had microplastics, that we had forever chemicals. Now all this stuff and forever chemicals have been around since the 1940s, but no one told us about it.
Gotcha.
Microplastics have been around forever, but we're just learning about it. Now pharmaceutical contamination is going to be the next one.
True. Hadn't thought about that. All right. Keep the questions coming in, by the way, 307-200-8222. You can call, by the way. You can call and ask a question if you'd like, 303-477-5600. The text line's been... and by the way, you guys can always text. That's never a problem. We can answer those questions as you see us doing right now. But if you have got a question, you want to talk to Paul directly, 303-477-5600. We'll be right back, though. Paul, the water guy, it's Water Pros. Paul, one more time, what's your phone number? How do folks get a hold of you?
303-862-5554.
All right, we'll be right back, guys. Fix It Radio, KLZ 560.
Colorado hail season is here, and so are the out-of-state storm chasers. After every storm, door knockers flood neighborhoods with high-pressure sales tactics and promises that sound too good to be true. Before you sign anything, call a local company you can trust. At Roof Savers of Colorado, we provide honest, no-pressure roof inspections. If your roof has damage, we'll show you. If it doesn't, we'll tell you that too. And if your shingles are simply aging from Colorado's sun, wind, and dry climate, Roof Max can restore flexibility and extend your roof's life up to 15 years at a fraction of replacement cost. But once major storms hit, schedules fill up fast. Call Roof Savers of Colorado today at 303-710-6916 or visit roofsaversco.com for your free, honest inspection. That's 303-710-6916. Roof Savers of Colorado. Local, honest, and here long after the storm passes.
Need new glasses fast? With Stack Optical's on-site lab, you'll get your prescription glasses in just 3 to 4 days. No long wait times. Hey, this is Scott Watley, and I've trusted my eye care to Allen Stack and Stack Optical for the last 15 years. Eye exams are only $69, and that should be a part of your physical checkups each year. For over 50 years, Denver has trusted this family-owned boutique eye care center for premium vision care, custom eyewear, and expert repairs. See the Stack Optical difference today. Call 303-321-1578. That's 303-321-1578 and tell them Scott sent you. Stack Optical. Since 1968, at Stack Optical, you'll see the difference.
You're driving down the road, and out of nowhere, bang, a rock hits your windshield. and now you've got a crack or a star staring right back at you. Here's the good news. That chip can often be repaired if you catch it early. The real question is, who do you trust to do it right? That's where Novus Autoglass comes in. Novus, Latin for innovate, actually invented windshield repair back in 1972, and they're still leading the industry today. With more patents than any other glass repair company, they're constantly improving their resins and techniques to keep up with modern windshields and advanced vehicle technology. And here's what really sets them apart. While others offer limited warranties or none at all, Nova stands behind their work with a lifetime guarantee. If the repair doesn't hold, you get credit toward a full windshield replacement for as long as you own that windshield. That's real peace of mind. So don't wait. Small chips turn into big cracks fast. Find your nearest Novus location today by visiting ready-radio.com, drive-radio.com, or fixitradio.com. Just click the Novus link. Novus Autoglass. Repair first. Replace only when necessary.
Have you ever had to clean out a parent or relative's house and thought, where do I even start? For many families, that happens suddenly, after a move, an illness, or the loss of a loved one. It can be incredibly overwhelming. Taking time to declutter now can make life so much easier for you and for the people you care about. Reach out to Paula with Neat Freak Solutions, a professional organizing service helping people throughout Southeast Wyoming, Northern Colorado, and surrounding areas. Paula will work with you to simplify your home, downsize your belongings, and make your spaces easier to live in. Together, you'll go through things one step at a time, deciding what stays, what can be donated, and what can finally be let go. Because clutter isn't just about stuff, it's about stress. If there's a space in your home that feels overwhelming, Paula is here to help. Call 307-222-9539. That's 307-222-9539. Or visit neatfreak.solutions to learn more. Neat Freak Solutions. Less chaos, more breathing room.
Okay, we are back. Fix It Radio, KLZ 560. Paul the Water Guy with us, Water Pros. And Paul, real quick, mention your other special that you've got right now before we go to the next question here on the text line.
So we got a 3/4 inch cubic foot water softener, tankless RO, $3,600 installed.
Which we said earlier is $1,200 off.
Yep.
Okay. Text line, this is a question that came in. What about water delivery or contamination from old city lead pipes or copper or PEX lines in houses and buildings? Also, question is, do PEX lines break down like some of the others?
No. PEX, this is the fourth or fifth generation of PEX. PEX does not break down. PEX does not release any plastic toxins you have to worry about. Colorado well water is unique in city water. Copper, you actually, if you have a home that's in the 80s, you got lead solder. So water can be aggressive. And Colorado is one of the very few states where you can have minerals in the water, and yet it's still aggressive because of the carbonation. So the pH is low. Okay. Acidic water is water that's at 6.9 or below.
Okay.
All right. And so what that means is the water's going to eat at the copper pipe from the inside out. So not only can you get copper, but you can get lead solder if the home is from the 80s or older. Okay. Newer homes with, copper after that, you don't have to worry about the lead, but you have to worry about the copper that's in the water. Lead infrastructure, that's a great, topic. It's still happening. The city of Denver is trying to replace their lead pipes. They still send out letters.
Why did they use lead back in the day, by the way? Was it just cheap?
Well, that was the only thing. I mean, no one thought about it. And here's something else to think about. Copper, you were a master plumber back in the day because you had to sweat and solder copper. Right? Now, now it's PEX. What are you doing? You don't do anything. Right? You can take one PEX line, run it all the way to the house. You can bend it, curve it, a couple connections. So, you don't have to be a rocket science. But one of the things I find on a side note that's fascinating with these new homes, you would think they would take the water lines and start at one point and run it all the way instead of backtracking. Right? That's silly.
Think.
Yeah, you would think. Common sense is not so common. My wife was up in New York, and the Great Lakes, she reminds me, that the Great Lakes have a high contamination of not only PFAS, but also microplastics.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Great Lakes are PFAS contamination. 3M and had to settle with the state of New Jersey, right? New Jersey and the Carolinas, because they're still dumping forever chemicals.
So do you feel like we in Colorado here at least are a little bit ahead of the curve as far as all that goes because we're at, quote-unquote, the headwaters versus where some of the states you just mentioned are not, or does it matter?
No, I don't think it matters. Well, we have it worse here in some cases because the firefighting foam contains PFAS.
Okay.
So, firefighting foam with all those forest fires, and you're dumping the firefighting foam, and eventually it's going to get into our water table. We had an algae bloom problem in Greeley because Greeley didn't pay attention and monitor their water, where they grabbed the water source from their water reservoir. I think it's called Boyd Lake. They weren't paying attention to it. And next thing you know, the water stinks and smells. Algae. You're relying on government officials who are basically paid employees.
True.
Right? To and some of them, they just don't care. We had Rose Finch, I think at Rose Finch Circle and Highlands Ranch. They are in the very end of their water line. They had turbidity, which is floaty dirt. That's unsafe to drink. I pointed out to him a year ago, I said, hey, call the water district, tell them there's turbidity. They should come out and flush the line.
Okay.
So the guy comes out, looks at him, looks weird, and thinks that, it goes outside, opens the hydrants for 10 minutes and leaves. That does nothing for them. If they properly maintain the water lines, you have to properly flush the water lines, and that's not being done.
Somebody also said, do you know anything about the spring water between A Basin and Keystone? Is it safe to drink?
I think all Colorado water is contaminated with forever chemicals and microplastics. That's 100% fact.
Okay, so no matter where you live, you should be doing something to treat your water.
Absolutely correct. There was a study done, I think, by Colorado State. They went around, tested every major body of water in Colorado positive, for microplastics. Scott and I on our Friday show, we talked to a guy that engineers water reservoirs, and he did a test. And every major over-the-counter pharmaceutical test positive.
Wow.
So, Greeley, Fort Collins, has a water reservoir they spent billions of dollars on they can't use because of high uranium.
Really?
Yeah, sitting there. And you know what they're hoping? They're hoping that eventually the uranium will settle to the bottom so then the water's safe for them to use.
Will that happen?
Who knows how long? And think about this. We mentioned before, this is the same water that George Washington used to rinse his wooden teeth.
True. Good point.
Okay.
Good point.
So, you've got, from the beginning of time, the beginning of modern day civilization, what has ever contaminated the water supply is still there. They just don't tell us about it.
Yeah, I never really. I've thought about us having the same water we've always had. The difference is we've contaminated it, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not against humans and industrialization and all of that. I mean, we live in a great world, Paul. We have so many, niceties today that I'm not saying this in a negative way, but we, because, human nature and so on, the longer we live here, the more that contamination starts to happen. And especially since we've industrialized everything and came up with pharmaceuticals and all the different things we're talking about, that didn't exist a couple hundred years ago. It didn't exist 100 years ago.
No, it didn't. And the problem is that they falsely assumed that the contamination would be at such minute levels it wouldn't matter.
Got it.
And that's not the case.
Somebody texted and said, so sum it up, we're just all screwed.
Absolutely. You got to do water filtration.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, but you think about your water. You have to take responsibility, do it yourself. You can't rely on the municipality to do anything.
Okay.
When's the last thing the federal government did anything for us that was a great benefit that you said, man, that's outstanding?
Yep. Okay, somebody also said, when Hurricane Katrina hit the shores of New Orleans, I went down with a church group to help with the cleanup. I was amazed to see Miller Highlight Brewing Company and Budweiser had both sent semi-trucks full of canned water for us to drink. Those pallets of aluminum canned drinking water were out in the sun. So 2 questions. Does the sun affect the water in these aluminum cans just like it would in the plastic cans? Second question, Budweiser and Coors Brewing Company supposedly purify their water. Does the beer and whiskey companies have PFAS in their products?
Absolutely correct. So aluminum cans, yes, that's outstanding. That's safer.
Yeah, Ball is doing, local companies doing great.
That's outstanding. If you do your research, beer has PFAS.
Okay.
So that they're not taking reverse osmosis steps to treat water. It's a
I guess
fact.
you could probably say that about any other type of product you would buy that comes in a bottle or a can to
That's
drink,
right.
Because it's all the same, correct? Anything that would have water added into it, correct?
Correct. PFAS is contaminated. It's globally a contamination. Minnesota Department of Public Health official tried to expose this. She went to a lake, and every fish that she tested, they had more PFAS in them than blood.
Wow.
PFAS contamination. If you go to YouTube, type in PFAS contamination on a farm. There's a farm in Maine that we did on Scott's show at Fridays afternoon, and they had to kill all the herd of dairy cows because PFAS contamination.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, there's a lady and a husband retired in Maine, bought an apple farm. PFAS contamination. He died of thyroid cancer. She's got more PFAS in her body than is medically ever seen before. And that's ruined. The apples are ruined. The apple orchard are ruined because of PFAS contamination. PFAS started. 3M knew they were poisoning the world in the 60s. They had employees that started testing positive with PFAS.
I knew that.
There's a YouTube video you can watch. It was done in the 90s that basically gives you what PFAS is, what happened, and then the lawsuit because of the contamination. A farmer went out, his cows were dying, because they were drinking the water from the spring that, went through the pasture.
Right.
And they were, suffering a horrible death. And he said, hey, this isn't right. And finally, it was because the PFAS contamination, the byproduct that 3M was putting into the ground was getting to his water supply.
I see. It was leaching out into
his
water supply.
There's communities in North Carolina where 3M has agreed to purchase drinking water systems for everybody because of the contamination. So it's global. I mean, it just, the next thing that's going to be a scary situation, think about this. Think about all the nuclear waste that was buried underground. Those steel barrels aren't going to last forever. They're going to rust. What do you think that radiation is going to? In Europe, it's called heavy water. Right?
Right.
In Europe, they're testing heavy water in their water supplies.
Interesting.
So it's only going to get worse. The radioactive, if we don't do something right now and truthful, so this is my thought. I'm paying for something for municipal water. Tell me the truth, what's in it. Municipal water is the only outfit that you pay something for that it's allowed to lie to you.
That you don't know anything about.
Right.
You're correct on that. You're correct. Yeah, somebody even so. Here's an article that just came in too, and I'd have to go read this because this is coming out on a text, text through a website itself. Scientists found a big problem with how we measure microplastics. I'll have to read that article to see exactly what it says, but is that, in other words, are they not? What it's saying here is finding and identifying microplastics is extremely challenging, especially given their small size. One microplastic can range from as large as a ladybug to as small as an eighth of a red blood cell.
That's it. That's why they contaminate that. That's why it's all through it's penetrated the human body. That's why I'm my biggest fear.
It even says here, in addition, it can be hard for researchers to avoid unintentionally contaminating their samples because these plastics are practically everywhere. As a result, much of the research may be overestimating the number of microplastics because some of the studies are flawed because there's so many plastics everywhere.
That's it.
Interesting. So again, one more time on your special that you've got right now that folks can be involved in.
So you get a 3/4 of a cubic foot smart computer water softener, tankless reverse osmosis, $3,600 installed.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the water softener itself, I mean, because this is one that I'm not an expert in by any stretch of imagination. Do they all use salt? Do some use salt? Some not use salt? How does that work?
So salt's the detergent. So salt's converted to a saline solution. That's a rinsing agent. There's no credible technology. There's no such thing as a salt-free water softener.
Okay.
So real quick. So hardness is calcium carbonate. Sodium chloride is the detergent. The resin grabs the calcium before it oxidizes. The sodium chloride then basically causes the resin to release all the hardness it grabs.
Okay.
So the exchange process. So from calcium carbonate, the calcium and the chloride go down the drain. The sodium carbonate come out of your faucet. So it's baking soda that's the byproduct of a water softener. The calcium chloride go down the drain, and there's no such thing as water softeners destroying leach fields. It's a lie. I challenge anybody to call me directly to debate it. The
that was going to be my next question. If you're on a septic system, what does this do?
That does nothing. The hardness is food for your leach field.
Okay.
The EPA did a study, in-depth study about water softeners, and it doesn't kill leach fields at all.
Okay, because that was going to be my next question. Because I know I got people. Well, I have one, and I've got people listening that I know are on. Not everybody's on sewer. There's a lot of folks that are still on septic systems. Wow. First, BPA, now PFAS. Sounds like I can't drink any water anywhere now without damaging my health. Makes me wonder how we're still living longer. Interesting. And actually, this person also said nuclear materials are not buried; they are stored on site.
I thought I read an article, and now this is just me going off of memory, but didn't they bury these deep in ground? Weren't there waste sites where they took those waste? There were 50-gallon drums, and they were buried in the ground.
That one I do not know. And if you've got this particular person texting, if you've got some information on that, please send that to me. I'll send that to Paul as well, because that one that is not anything that I am an expert on, so I don't know on that one at all. So if that is the case, that's actually a relief if that is in fact the case.
Absolutely is the case.
That's a huge relief. So if that's the case, send us some information on that, and yeah, we'll make sure that we get that put out there correctly. Now, for guys like me, Paul, because there's Drive Radio's coming up here in a minute, and which we run your ads in Drive Radio as well. And there's a lot of guys out there, car guys like me, that wash cars at home and do things along those lines. Does a whole house system help in that as well, or does it make any difference?
So it helps a lot. So right now, if you dry your car, you use a chamois. If you don't do that, you're going to get hard water spots. Okay.
Correct.
So with a water softener, you get water spots, but they're not hard water spots. They buff off. Okay. Reverse osmosis is spot free.
Which is what car washes use, right?
Right. So water softener, you don't have the hard water spots. You see water spots, but you take your rag and it's done. So, yes. You know what soft water does? Soft water breaks down calcium. Okay. So, folks out there, real quick, if you got bottled water, take a washcloth, take a bowl. I did that at Scott's house for Scott and Victoria. You rinse a washcloth, and you'll see all the trapped soap.
Got it. It's not coming out.
It's not coming out.
And a lot of that has to do with the water quality.
Well, it has to do...
and for some of you listening, you know some of this, especially some of you ladies, because when you travel and you wash your hair and you're at a different, you stay at a friend's house or a family member's house or a hotel or whatever the case may be, you'll notice that the water quality changes probably dramatically from where you're at with your own home, depending upon the quality of the water that you've got. And point being, a whole house filtration system when it comes to even the quality of your shower and your washing of your hair and your skin and all of that is a big difference, is it not, Paul?
Absolutely correct. Soft water eliminates the hard water buildup that's trapped on in your skin and your hair. That's exactly why you have itchy skin. It can create eczema. Same with high chlorine content.
Okay. And again, folks, the best way to do this is call Paul. First thing he does is, because I know this, he'll come out, test your water, figure out exactly what's going on, and then design, because this is the difference between him and just a universal system. You're going to design a system for that particular house based upon the water quality, right?
Right. We don't offer cookie-cutter solutions.
Right, because you can't, because the water quality is going to be different from one area of town to another, correct?
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
So that's why the water test, so we program, it's a smart computer system, we program that to your water needs, and the system takes care of itself.
Okay, so for all of you listening, what you may have that a family member's got, for example, may be a completely different system than what you have versus, especially if you're on a well, versus what a neighbor has versus all of that. So a lot of these quote-unquote universal systems that you see advertised, they are not going to do the same thing that Paul's going to come out and do for you.
Absolutely correct.
One more time, your phone number.
303-862-5554.
And again, if you're listening to a replay show, thank you. You can always call Paul with a direct question. So if you're listening to this program on Monday or any other time when we do a replay, please give Paul a call. He's happy to help you out. And Paul, I've learned so much. I appreciate it. We'll have you back for sure.
Thank you so much for having me here.
It's been awesome. Been awesome. All right. Fix It Radio, KLZ 560.